The arrogant judge smirked at the black boy before him, convinced he was no match, but Marcus Allen was about to leave him speechless. Marcus Allen walked into the courtroom with his head held high, unaware that the arrogant Judge Harold Bennett would be presiding that day. Sarah Mitchell sat a few rows behind him, watching nervously, knowing the judge had a reputation for belittling students who challenged his authority. Mr. Thompson had warned Marcus to stay calm and not react, but Marcus could feel the tension in the air as Judge Bennett scanned the room with a condescending smile. The judge's eyes landed on Marcus, and a smirk formed as he whispered under his breath, assuming this boy was just another troublemaker trying to look smart. Marcus's calm demeanor did not waver, but inside, he felt the familiar sting of being underestimated. As Judge Bennett started the session, he immediately questioned Marcus in a dismissive tone, asking questions that seemed designed to confuse rather than test. Marcus answered each one with clarity and confidence, silently proving that he was far from ordinary. The judge's smirk faltered slightly, and Sarah Mitchell could see his growing frustration. Every word Marcus spoke was precise, every gesture confident, yet the judge continued to push, mocking him subtly to the amusement of some and the discomfort of others in the courtroom. Mr. Thompson watched closely, proud of Marcus's restraint and skill. The tension grew, and the audience felt it, anticipating the moment Marcus would finally reveal the depth of his intelligence. Judge Bennett underestimated him at every step, failing to see the boy's determination and quiet brilliance. Marcus's answers were not just correct, they were insightful, showing an understanding far beyond his years. Sarah Mitchell whispered encouragement, and Marcus gave her a small, confident nod. The judge, irritated that his attempts to intimidate had failed, leaned back in his chair, trying to regain control. Marcus noticed every change in the judge's expression, understanding that the real test had just begun. The courtroom was silent, waiting for the inevitable moment when the arrogant judge would realize he had misjudged the boy. Marcus Allen's calm strength set the tone for what would become a powerful lesson in humility and respect. His presence alone challenged the judge's assumptions and hinted at a future confrontation that no one would forget. The chapter ended with a lingering tension, and viewers would have to watch the next part to see how Marcus would leave Judge Bennett speechless. Speech balloon comment below your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to follow this story of courage, intelligence, and justice. Marcus Allen could feel the weight of every eye in the courtroom as Judge Harold Bennett leaned forward, his arrogance practically radiating from his polished robes. Sarah Mitchell sat a few rows back, clutching her notebook tightly, her heart pounding with anxiety as she watched the judge deliberately humiliate Marcus with a pointed question, his tone dripping with condescension. Mr. Thompson stood at the side, arms crossed, observing carefully, fully aware that Marcus was facing more than just a test of knowledge. He was facing the judge's deep-seated bias and prejudice. Judge Bennett, thinking himself clever, asked questions designed to make Marcus stumble, each one layered with subtle insults and assumptions about his abilities. Marcus paused, took a slow, steady breath, and answered every question with calm precision, his voice steady and unwavering, each word carefully chosen to convey both intelligence and composure. The judge's smirk faltered as Marcus's clear, thoughtful responses revealed the depth of his understanding, exposing the boy's brilliance that could not be hidden behind appearances. Sarah Mitchell's eyes widened with admiration as she whispered softly, "He's incredible," and Marcus nodded ever so slightly, acknowledging her silent support. Every time Judge Bennett attempted to cut him down with a sarcastic remark or patronizing gesture, Marcus maintained his dignity, refusing to be rattled or intimidated. The courtroom murmured quietly, the tension thickening as it became clear that the judge's arrogance might not survive this encounter. Mr. Thompson, proud yet tense, knew that Marcus was not just answering questions, he was teaching the room a lesson in patience, respect, and quiet strength. As the questioning continued, Marcus began to subtly challenge the judge's assumptions without disrespect, highlighting flaws in the logic of some of Bennett's points, yet doing so with perfect politeness that left the audience impressed and the judge increasingly flustered. Sarah Mitchell could barely contain her excitement, watching Marcus turn every attempt at humiliation into a showcase of intellect and maturity far beyond his years. Judge Bennett's pride bristled, his face tightening as the boy, who was supposed to be meek and unassuming, methodically dismantled every preconception, leaving no room for doubt about Marcus's capabilities. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted, whispers spreading through the audience as they realized this was no ordinary exchange. This was a masterclass in composure, intelligence, and resilience from a 16-year-old who refused to be underestimated. The tension built to a near-breaking point, with Judge Bennett frowning and glancing around, trying to regain authority, but the boy remained steadfast, calm, and unyielding. Marcus Allen's presence alone challenged the judge's entire perspective, and the realization that this young man could not be belittled simmered quietly in the room. The chapter closed with an electrifying sense of anticipation, every eye on Marcus, every word from the judge a battle of wit and patience, leaving viewers eager to see how the arrogant judge would finally be left speechless. Speech Balloon, comment your thoughts below and subscribe to witness the next chapter of Marcus's incredible confrontation. Marcus Allen's heart remained steady, but the weight of the courtroom's gaze pressed on him like never before as Judge Harold Bennett leaned back in his chair, clearly unsettled yet unwilling to show weakness. Sarah Mitchell's fingers gripped her notebook, her eyes fixed on Marcus, silently urging him to keep calm as she witnessed the growing tension. Mr. Thompson, standing near the courtroom's edge, observed every subtle flicker of emotion on the judge's face, knowing that Marcus had already begun to unravel Bennett's arrogance without raising his voice. The judge, frustrated that his usual tactics of intimidation were failing, began to escalate his questioning, aiming barbed statements not just at Marcus's knowledge, but at his very presence, implying that a boy of his age and race could never truly measure up to the standards of intelligence and composure the court demanded. Marcus remained calm, responding to each jab with precise, thoughtful answers, weaving facts, logic, and insight seamlessly into his speech, demonstrating a level of maturity and intelligence that left even the skeptical audience whispering in awe. Sarah Mitchell could see the judge's impatience growing as Marcus, without anger or disrespect, subtly highlighted contradictions in the judge's assumptions, making it clear that Marcus was not only prepared, but far more capable than anyone in the room had expected. Mr. Thompson's chest swelled with pride. He had never doubted Marcus's abilities, but the courtroom drama intensified with every word, every pause, every confident gaze from the boy. The judge attempted to regain control, leaning forward with a forced smile, trying to reassert authority, but Marcus anticipated each move, responding with logic and calm confidence that slowly shifted the balance of power in the room. The audience, initially tense and uncertain, began to sense the turning tide, murmuring quietly at how effortlessly Marcus dismantled every condescending remark with grace and intellect. Sarah Mitchell's admiration for Marcus grew with each moment, and she realized that this was more than a test of knowledge. It was a demonstration of dignity, resilience, and quiet power in the face of blatant prejudice. The judge's arrogance cracked in tiny increments as Marcus answered questions not just correctly, but insightfully, leaving no room for doubt that intelligence and capability are never dictated by age or appearance. The courtroom felt electric, each second heavy with suspense as Marcus maintained unwavering poise while exposing the fragility of Bennett's assumptions. Mr. Thompson, impressed and slightly anxious, knew the final moment was approaching, a moment when Marcus's brilliance would leave the judge speechless, and the audience would witness the ultimate confrontation between arrogance and undeniable talent. As the questioning reached its peak, the judge realized that his mockery had failed entirely, that the boy he assumed he could belittle had outclassed him with composure, intelligence, and moral strength. Sarah Mitchell whispered under her breath, almost in disbelief, "He's unstoppable," and Marcus simply gave a calm nod, letting his actions speak louder than words. Every eye in the courtroom was fixed on Marcus Allen as he prepared for the closing answer that would solidify his victory not through anger, but through brilliance and quiet confidence. The chapter ended with a tangible sense of anticipation, viewers left on edge, eager to see how Judge Bennett's arrogance would finally crumble completely in the next chapter. Speech balloon comment below if you think Marcus deserved this victory, and don't forget to subscribe to witness the climax of this incredible story of courage, intelligence, and respect. Marcus Allen felt the weight of every gaze in the courtroom intensify as Judge Harold Bennett's arrogance began to crack, his carefully constructed facade of superiority slowly unraveling under the boy's unwavering composure. Sarah Mitchell could hardly breathe, her eyes glued to Marcus, knowing that the final confrontation was about to unfold and feeling the electric tension in the air that signaled something monumental was happening. Mr. Thompson stood quietly, pride and anxiety battling inside him, fully aware that Marcus was moments away from completely dismantling the judge's preconceptions and exposing the fragility of bias in the most public way possible. Judge Bennett, realizing that his usual tactics of belittlement had failed, tried to regain control with a sharp, cutting remark meant to shame Marcus. But the boy did not flinch, he did not hesitate, he simply smiled calmly and responded with precise, intelligent, and insightful words that left no room for doubt about his intellect and dignity. The courtroom gasped as Marcus subtly challenged the judge's assumptions without disrespect, pointing out flaws in the questions and revealing the arrogance behind Bennett's condescension, doing so with perfect politeness that stunned everyone, including the judge himself. Sarah Mitchell whispered in awe, "He's unstoppable," as Marcus continued to speak with quiet strength, each answer leaving the judge more flustered, his pride bruised, and his superiority visibly shaken. Mr. Thompson watched every second, knowing that Marcus was teaching not just the judge, but everyone present, a lesson in humility, respect, and the danger of underestimating someone based on age or skin color. Judge Bennett's smirk had completely vanished, replaced by frustration, disbelief, and finally, the reluctant respect that came only after witnessing undeniable brilliance. Marcus Allen's calm, confident demeanor had transformed the courtroom, turning what began as a scene of mockery into a lesson in courage, patience, and intelligence. Sarah Mitchell felt her own heart swell with pride as she realized she had witnessed something extraordinary. A 16-year-old boy using nothing but knowledge, composure, and moral strength to silence arrogance and expose prejudice. Mr. Thompson quietly nodded, knowing Marcus had not only answered questions but had shattered assumptions and inspired everyone in the room. The climax reached its peak when Marcus, asked a final question meant to belittle him, responded with such clarity, wisdom, and confidence that Judge Bennett leaned back in disbelief, speechless for the first time in his career, unable to argue or dismiss the boy in any way. The audience erupted in quiet murmurs, the tension giving way to admiration and awe as Marcus Allen walked out of the courtroom with his dignity intact, his intelligence proven, and the lesson unmistakable. Never judge someone by appearances, never underestimate quiet strength, and true brilliance shines through arrogance and prejudice. Sarah Mitchell and Mr. Thompson exchanged proud, emotional glances, knowing this moment would be remembered for years as the day Marcus Allen taught the arrogant Judge Harold Bennett that respect is earned through wisdom, courage, and integrity, not through assumptions or prejudice. Speech balloon comment below what you think about Marcus's incredible victory, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories of courage, intelligence, and the fight against racism. The lesson is clear. Never allow bias or arrogance to determine someone's worth, and always recognize that strength and talent can come from the most unexpected places.